So mum and dad were very ambitious for me to go to college. It was at that time. There was actually nothing else happening in the jobs market for anyone at the time. But so I went straight from secondary school to UCC. I suppose I was bright, and I knew I didn't want to be a doctor or a dentist. So the next one down the line was law. So that was my option. As regards to employment law, my dad was a union man, and I would hear all of his stories at the table. My brothers worked as tradesmen and as fitters, as did he. So I was hearing all of this in dispatches and passing and that. So it kind of filtered down. I didn't know really anything about employment law when I first started, but that's one of the reasons I got into it. So knowledge is everything, and we're thankful to like citizens advice now is something that I lean into quite a lot because the answers are there, and people know of their rights too. I think employment law is just one of those areas where I started to specialize, others started to specialize, or others realized some of the best colleague referrals I get are from people who realize they know nothing about employment law and they shouldn't dabble. So it's become something you can, it's my practice. It can sustain me successfully in business. I do. I do because probably the most rewarding thing is that every day is different, every week is different, and that's I've often thought, and I did do when I started out in my own business in 2007. I did some conveyancing, and I hated it, and I was as a consequence I was very poor at it. I just needed to get an income. And then over time, I've just let things go and made referrals to others in certain areas. And actually, to be a specialist in the area and to work in the area, 100% makes it an awful lot easier ask because you're not dabbling, as they say. It was 100% deliberate, and it had to be because my colleagues in Dublin. So I've been on the Employment Law Committee of the Law Society for a few years, and I I will say they might deny, but my colleagues in Dublin have a much easier ask because there's just so many more employment law opportunities. I was never going to live anywhere other than Cork, so I had to tell people I was the employment lawyer in Cork. That doesn't make me mean I'm the best employment lawyer in Cork, but you've got to tag yourself with some degree of confidence, and then you become. So you say you are, and then you become. If I can put it like that. So you've got to work at, I offered my services to the local bar association, the Southern Law, and I even set up a brief life of an employment law committee, which there's one in Dublin, and that's all. So and then I spoke freely or of my free time, but very deliberately again to say, look, you're listening to me here now, and you're hearing that I know, or you're going to realize I know about this, and maybe you don't know as much, say, or you don't have the practice that I have. But you have to put in those hard yards. You've got to. I think too, colleagues will tell whether there's any reality to what you're saying or reality to saying I know about this because I'm standing up in front of them and speaking about these issues. Yeah, I've always been a coach in areas of sport. I was for years a hockey coach up to elite level. I'm now both a pickleball player and pickleball coach, and I run a pickleball club. But yeah, you lean into all those things you've learned over the years, and sometimes you fake it till you make it. But I found when I've been speaking about, I learn something every time I speak about something. I learn something new. I've gone to other colleagues as well. The same thing. You're constantly learning. You realize you're not the finished article. It covers all of the rights you have in the workplace, realistically, and you will need a solicitor when you feel you've been unfairly treated, and trust me, people know when they're being unfairly treated. But anything I think that affects your ongoing employment, like we all need to work to pay our rent and pay our mortgage. So anything that might interfere with that is a serious impact on you, your lifestyle, your family. So um, you'll know when you need to when you need to consult an employment lawyer. You know you're under attack, and I've the number of times even that somebody will say to me, "This is the kind of set of circumstance at the moment," and am I being paranoid or no, no? You're not paranoid. They are really out to get you. So I know by the signs. I know that I'm making up a name. I know that Michael is not for that employment based on an exchange, say, where an employment really doesn't care whether they offend Michael or not. Now, redundancy and collective redundancy is very hot. You guys will only hear it in passing, say Amazon or laying off 16,000 or something like that. But I'll see it on the ground, and yeah, it's a. I don't know. I'm not like a data analyst in this situation, but I don't know if lower level admin jobs are being ruled out by AI and that. But I certainly see that a lot of there's enough of them to register on my, and that I'm getting more inquiries about those now than anything else at the moment. It's a very trite answer, but if you're walking through the door of the Workplace Relations Commission, you've already made mistakes. You stay the hell out of the WRC. It's I've particular views about it. I've appeared before different things over the years: the Rights Commissioner, the Employment Appeals Tribunal, the Equality Tribunals, the Labour Court, and I see the current iteration of the WRC as kind of a busted flush. I'm not alone in that view. I attend a thing called the Employment Bar Association. It's the barristers' employment group. I attend that seminar every year, and there's so much concern about being before the WRC. So again, if you're walking through the door, then you've made the mistakes. You stay the hell out of the WRC so far as possible. That's certainly my practice now, which may seem unusual to others, but it doesn't work out for either party. Is the common view of employment lawyers like me. So 12 months is a very important dateline for any employee, because once you get to 12 months, you get heaps and heaps of rights, not least to be protected from unfair dismissal. So realistically, the other one is an unfair, what I call, or we call, redundancy dismissal, where somebody is being dumped out of the employment on the grounds, Maria, that it's a redundancy when it's not. And in those situations, now commonly I kick in with trying to avoid the WRC, as I stated previously. I kind of escalate from the point of view of the employee to a level of an injunction, because I'd rather go to court than go to the WRC and that. So that's a common tactic. Nothing new to employment lawyers who might ever see this, but it's a smart way for an employer to try and dismiss somebody, but they usually get it badly wrong. So hence they come into my sphere. Honestly, consult an employment lawyer, because the next steps you take, for example, to really ratchet up the process to, say, an injunction, um, can give you a lot of impetus that you wouldn't have otherwise. So I suppose the brief telling of that, you do nothing, you fail to consult with me, and you're then dismissed on grounds of redundancy. The next right you have is the right to bring the matter before the WRC, and by that time you've diminished my game plan, because I've already spoken with the WRC. So yeah, if you feel that this is genuine, you're probably right, and then that's the time to consult. The time to consult is now or yesterday, not tomorrow. There's a very simple one. It's 6 months. So if there's been any kind of an employment breach, you have to file that within 6 months with the WRC. And it's simple as. The easiest takeaway is, if your rights are being affected, and you sometimes think, well, the employer really, he's not been that, he's been good to me up to now, and I'll trust him to do it. And then you wait till after the 6 months, and your breach is, I can't do anything with it. So yeah, if in doubt, file. You can always withdraw a complaint afterwards, but get it in now, and afterwards see what we'll do with it. This was a big part of my. So if you saw me on LinkedIn, I've few seminars on this. So personally, I've experienced it myself, I have to be honest, and I have specialized in the area for years and delivered seminars to the Law Society and others on the topic. But I honestly, this sounds very negative, conclude now that there's a lot of talk about bullying, and but not a lot is done to prevent it. So it's also treated that way with regard to the rights you might have before the WRC and the courts. They treat it differently, like it's a different type of model complaint, and that. So it goes on. I have no doubt in my mind. I think lip service is paid to it, and I'd love if more was done, because it's a huge part of the workplace environment, particularly when you're dealing, I have to say, with some of the non-Irish companies. Why am I skirting around it? The American companies, who sometimes they don't understand that we've got this body of rights here as employees, and they feel that if they want Sean out, Sean's gone. Why Sean is even talking to me still? So unfortunately, I think we've gone a bit backwards with regard to work we've done for those who are afflicted by the savagery of bullying in the workplace. Over time, what happened was companies adopt things like dignity of work policies, but they use these internal processes to kind of manage out the issue. So that commonly, once you have an internal process like dignity of work or a bullying policy, the employer gets to manage it in their favour, is my experience of it. So there's huge frustrations on the part of employee when I'm saying, well, look, you've made an internal complaint for which I can't play a role. I'm distinctly excluded. And you have to see all those out before you might say, I can't work here anymore. I have been constructively dismissed. But any employment lawyer will tell you the worst time you're dealt with before for unfair dismissal is that of constructive unfair dismissal. So it's a feeling before the WRC, for example, that if you've left a good job, that's on you, so to speak. That's my. I sound very negative, Catherine, but that's my tell on it is a lot of talk, a lot of policies, but not a lot of concern for the person who has been bullied in the workplace and is being bullied in the workplace. This actually is a positive. Yay, positive. But it is because it's a huge tool in the armory of any employment lawyer. So it's got a huge nuisance aspect to it as well. So without even litigating, so litigating might be filing a complaint with the WRC or going to the courts. You're flagging to the employer, hey, I'm here. I can engage here because I'm external on this, and I want this guy's personal data. They go berserk. Then why is a lawyer engaging with us and all of that? So it's one where I can come on record. I'm happier on record than trying to assist somebody from behind the curtain, so to speak. So data employers. I know because I act for employers, they can't stand the rights that is given employees the right to their personal data. But a huge tool, and it's one of the positives that's happened in employment law is that we have it available to us. Because there's, that old saying that there's many ways to skin a cat. Well, there's many ways to bring the opposition to the table, and this is just one of the ways we do it. It's like you wouldn't work in it in isolation. You work in it in conjunction with everything else you might do. So it's just like if the WRC, you file your complaint, you will then make a DSAR or data subject access request. You'll do those almost in conjunction, and you're trying to convince the employer to do what they really should do is come and talk to us now, and we'll all be better for avoiding the WRC experience. So it's sort of a means to an end, really, more than the end in itself, if that makes sense. CEDR is just a body that approves of mediators under their auspices. So I did I think their course back in 2006. And they're like really well thought of in terms of mediation. So they were really at the forefront of it, a UK-based organization. And I did it, I loved it, I love it because when you talk about everything else, you're kind of breaking up the party kind of thing. Whereas the mediation is bringing us all together and saying, look, it didn't work out, but can we do this? Can we sort it? And that's been huge in employment law because lots of deals, I suppose the best deals I've ever done are behind closed doors. The best ones I can't talk about because nobody ever saw it because it wasn't an open play, it wasn't an open court and all of that. But the massive results that you get from mediation is and do you know what, Kathy? You feel an awful lot better about yourself because you were part of a solution directly, and you achieved the best result for your client. And I've acted for employers, employees, and I've been the mediator in certain things. And again, I'd say if you spoke to any employment lawyer out there, they'd say the very same. My best results are all silent and unseen because we see the value of mediation. I see, even if I think it's going to be a failure, I engage in it as one of the parties. I engage in it because it it doesn't hurt, apart from fees and things like that. But in the greater scheme of things, it's even from a fee perspective, it's a much better ask than just going to war. One that they both agree to, that they both sign up to. So, adjudication is just that. Somebody with a position like an adjudicator or a judge decides, and whether they like it or not, a mediation can only lead to solution when both buy into that solution. So, people leave it sometimes like, well, I got kind of 75% of what I wanted, but like in the result for adjudication is 0 or 100, and there's rarely anywhere in between. I remember one of the mediations early on, and it was my client. We were 19 hours at the mediation. It was a city, of course, was Cork City based, and Cork City lawyers and all of those. But the guy, he was he he was, let's just say, tired, or he and was slow to get up. But I walked with him. He was like bounding in air, the guy. He struggled to get up, and he was walking down with me, and he was telling me what I meant and all of that. And I swear to God, he floated. And you don't see that with people. It sticks with you that lawyers kind of achieving, palpable results like that is rare. And so even if you get a result when you've gone through a battle 3 or 4 days in the WRC, appeal to the Labour Court, and we come out with a win, geez, they're all damaged parties. Both parties are damaged by the process. So never. It would be my first call, and for all the reasons I've stated. Just can't hurt, go into it, uh, explain what it means. That's very important. And it's something you must buy in if you want to solve the issue. So it's not my resolution, it's yours kind of thing. No, I always take mediation. It's easier said than done, but because sometimes they can be so stressed that they're not listening, but if I get that feeling that, somebody, I think I can engage with them and I can help them. That's what I say. I think I can help you here. Because it's sometimes a conversation, I can honestly say, I don't think I can help you here. But if I do, and if it usually, I can't say I say it every time, honestly, but it lends itself, and you just know by the degree of their upset, you know by the bits that they've given you, whether you can help or not. And that's one thing I will say. I think it can help you. The fees. It's the thing with employment law and family law, very commonly, is we can win, but we won't get an award in respect to fees. And so whatever result we achieve, our clients will pay our fees. And as much as I tell them in bald terms from start, it's something that I don't think because they in their collective kind of beliefs are, lawyers will be paid, the loser pays the lawyer's fees. And as much as I say it in very clear terms, and because it's terrible to follow with somebody after you've won, they're vindicated, but you can issue all the Section 150s in the world, and there's still a feeling that lawyers are free, or because lawyers have told in other situations that they're free. So honestly, I'd say it and follow with an email saying, file your complaint now. When you get the acknowledgement, there's a number there, come back to me. If you don't come back with the number, there's no point coming back to me. File now. Because I'm the area that I'm mostly engaged now, because I think if, like, people ring me and they say I'm owed €800 pay, I'll honestly say to them, look, you're better off filing a pay under the Payment Wages Act, the WRC. You can't afford any lawyer, including me. But if I know it's going to be life changing, career defining, those sort of things, it really has me involve myself. I review their documentation. I consult with them. I find now, funnily enough, phone consultations are particularly effective because I've got my two screens in front of me, and I can collate the documents. In times past, you meet with the client, and you'd be engaging like as I am with you, and you're talking. You're it's but you don't have access to the data that you need and all that. So maybe I'm an old fuddy-duddy, but I just got to the point where a phone consult or a Zoom consult is a very efficient way for me to do my business. So I take the information, I review the documentation, I generally consult with them at that point and give them sort of a discussion along next steps. And that's fairly early in the process. And then I'm there by their side from that point onwards. Generally say to them, I feed them emails to send and that, but generally don't say anything to anyone about anything except me going forward. And last questions that you just don't have an idea in replying, are your next step is to input into ChatGPT. It'll be telling you don't know what you're doing, stay away from it. Now, a few years ago, that lesson really wasn't being learned. Like you had people dabbling, and I had colleagues would ring me, like really nice colleagues, and that I got on with, and ringing me for next steps and things like that. But I don't get it anymore. I've got named colleagues who are really good practices in Cork, and they just say, no, that's employment law, that's your man. Get on to him there, just tell him that I referred it. So I think they know now more so than any little signals. They kind of realize, stay away from this. There's better ways of making money. Great to get a referral, firstly, with a colleague that's named, because that's not always the case. Or I learn a month after. Like the clients don't, this new client, I don't know why they don't tell you, but sometimes they don't. And like, if I know it's come from Sean, Sean's a decent guy. Like, I know he's going to, he'll have, clients he can rely on. That's a good reference. But sometimes, though, I suggest to know that there was referred by them. And equally so, Catherine, I'll be very honest with you. There's colleagues too who are over the years have been guilty of the hospital pass. If you need me to explain that, it basically is where it's a terrible client with a terrible referral, and they've just passed it on to me. But it rarely happens now, I have to say. I get great referrals from great colleagues who know they don't know this, and that's good. The minute you feel that you're under attack, you're under attack. So it's not paranoia. They are actually out to get you. People constantly engage me, employers and employees. They say they know that this guy's his approach in the workplace is completely different. Be that employer or employee, just something's changed. Communications hostile, all on the attack. Either side now that happens, but that's the one thing I'd say. I just think the fact, really, that it's different. Every day is different. Every week is different. That's genuine. If you think about any other work you can do, I'm saying non-lawyer work, to be challenged every day to step back and say, is this the right thing to do today? I think it's a huge part of the satisfaction that I have in the workplace. I've been self-employed since 2007. What does that make it? 19 years. And I never look back. Privileged to say I switch off fully. I spoke about the sporting passion of pickleball. It's actually hugely popular there. So I was in the Munster Open last weekend, and I took silver in the mixed doubles. So yeah, and it's a good competition. I mean, there's all age categories and all that, but it's fabulous. It's a real. So I like to be competitive, and so when I'm competing, or you don't think of anything else. That's the real pleasure of it. The other thing you don't know about me is that I'm a huge live music fan, particularly of the post-punk genre. So I go to a lot of concerts, and Cork City is a great place to go to. I actually promoted a gig last October for Pieta. So there's a Cork band called Digital. They're a tribute to Joy Division and New Order. And I promoted the gig, and it went very well, and hoping to do that again. So that was a case of I really liked that band, saw them in a tiny venue, and thought they should be in a better venue. So I they played in Crane Lane, as you may know it. And yeah, I live music is, and particularly the post punk, because I grew up during that phase of life. I just love it, and I forget everything else then when I'm enjoying music. Coffee, coffee beckons. I particular love of coffee. Very little other voices I will hasten to add, but I love my coffee, and it's a necessity in the morning, just as oxygen. Simple as. Well, I spoke earlier about my brothers and my father being fitters, like mechanical fitters, and I am hopeless with anything to do with hand or task or anything like that. So I probably I wouldn't have done anything manual because I'm, as I say, I was genuinely hopeless. But I do remember seeing when I was in college, Micheál Martin actually attending with a suit tie the Fianna Fáil common in UCC, and I wonder what was this guy doing in politics. Now, if I'd realised as he did that you could do, I'd love to be a teacher, specifically an English teacher, and if I could do what he did, which is become a teacher and then if you're into politics and on the basis you can come back at any stage if it doesn't work out, I'd have done it. But my school, my alma mater is Maeve Community School. Nobody gave me that prep. But that's probably what I would say to you is give politics a whirl. In short, I tell you, one of the reasons is we've got a city that really isn't a city. It's actually a big town. And how does this impact on my life? Kind of in the music. So I can go into a gig, drive into a gig, and it'll be in Crane Lane, or I'm going to one tomorrow week in the Savoy, the newly opened one, right? A young band. So I've never heard about, but there's a few of us now going from that group. But I can drive in and park up and walk 100 meters, and then I'm back to the car and I'm home in 20 minutes. Like, there's no other city like that. And I've lived in Dublin for 5 years when I was apprenticed there and all that. There's no other city like that that you can, it's so amenable to you. And I mean, we complain about traffic. We don't have traffic. We complain about no parking. We've plenty of parking. So you wouldn't be anywhere else, to be honest with you. And I think a lot of people who come here who've never lived in Ireland realise very quickly that why would you live anywhere else other than Cork?